So got a couple of people here. We're going to go ahead and get started. The session is being recorded and we'll do Q&A at the end. So if there's anyone who comes in midstream, we can always get someone going. But I wanted to go ahead and get started for the day. My name is Ryan Rutan. I'll kind of be like the MC for the session today. And the session title, Opening Doors with Crowdsourced Security Red Teams. So this with me today, we've got Trevor Granger, who's a security operations engineer here at Synack, and John Villarreal, who is one of our awesome Synack Red Team members, and then myself, Ryan Rutan. I run the community here at Synack for our Crowdsourced Red Team. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and do some introductions. Trevor, you want to give yourself a quick high-level introduction, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I am Trevor Granger. I've been with Synack since 2018, and I'm on my 17th, almost my 17th year in the military, active and guard.
Sweet. John?
Yeah, I'm John Villarreal, also known as Johnny Villarreal. Former Army veteran. I was just in the National Guard as a signals intelligence analyst. Also working at the MITRE Corporation. Most of you know them for like CVEs and stuff like that. And my favorite job is red teaming for Synack Red Team. So that's me.
Sweet. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Rutan. I run the community here at Synack. I've been with Synack for about 2.5 years. And so like my job is basically to ultimately create the community and find the red teamers that can ultimately help our customers be more safe and secure. So if you guys are interested in connecting with us, all of us are available on LinkedIn. Well, all of us are available on LinkedIn. Some of us are on Twitter. And the blue eagles represent who's Synack, and the red is kind of, for conversations if you want to talk about red teaming. So we'll start off first. We'll give Trevor his story, kind of his background coming into this session, and we'll go from there.
Hey, everybody. So I joined at 17 years old from a small town in northern Michigan. Originally, I signed up for infantry. My brother convinced me otherwise, and I ended up going avionics. So I worked on F-18s in the Marine Corps for a very short time before I then ended up working on diesel generators and a bunch of other things, but never really cyber. Since I was a kid, I wanted to be a police officer. And so when I got off of my first 5-year tour with the Marines, I became a police officer in Casper, Wyoming. Again, childhood dream, right? I made it about a year before I quit that job, realizing I wanted nothing to do with it. It just wasn't a good fit for me. Definitely nothing against police officers, but it wasn't what I was meant to do. So I say where it all fell apart. But truthfully, that's where it all came together. My wife, her brother recommended I do a program in information security. So I ended up going to Ferris State University and got my bachelor's degree in information security and intelligence. Shortly after that, I joined up with I transferred from the Army National Guard to the Air National Guard and became a 3 Delta, which was cyber surety. It's basically validating NESA scans, validating the security posture of the network. It's pretty simple stuff. I'm sure most people in here that are veterans have heard of a 3 Delta or cyber surety role. And then I recently became a 1 Bravo 4. So I've transferred over to that. Now I'm a cyber warfare operator. I also, right around the same time, just slightly about a year after, I got hired on by Synack. And I was a security analyst on the vulnerability operations team and ended up switching from that to the security operations engineer role. So instead of on the post operations side, after an SRT submits a vulnerability, I'm now on the pre-operations side where I actually get to set up and scope pen tests that are going to roll out to our SRT. Skills and expertise. I say many things mobile. By no means am I some crazy mobile hacker. However, I do a lot of the scoping for mobile tests. And so I use, jailbroken rooted devices to make sure that I can install on those devices, that I can capture data transferring back and forth between mobile devices and a proxy, that there's no CERT pinning or emulation protection or anything that's going to stop traffic going back and forth. Just make sure that the app is ready to be tested by our SRT. And when I say SRT, I'm talking about our researchers, our red team. So I put in there scoping as well, threat hunting, which I get to touch in the military a bit, just looking for bad on military networks. And then I have military benefit in red. So I have always loved helping people use their military benefits, GI Bill, federal tuition assistance, state tuition assistance if you're qualified for it as a Guard member, and many others like the VetSec program and that stuff. So that's something I'm pretty approachable about, and I love helping people use their benefits. So feel free to ask questions about that to me as well. I can get the next slide, Ryan, please. All right, so the why crowdsourced security, full-time, part-time, anywhere, anytime. The reason I wrote this out is we do have researchers, we have SRT who are full-time SRT. That is what they do. They crowdsource test as a full-time job whenever they want, at their convenience to bring in money that supports them full-time. They're not required to have any other job. So this is an option. This is clearly an option with Synack and other similar themed crowdsourced or bug bounty programs. We are full-time contractors. They bug bounty full-time. They're not internal employees. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. Part-time. So when I say part-time, the biggest thing is we have active duty military members in here. We have active duty military members who test as SRT. And they make money on the side, and that's great. We also have a lot of people that work for highly reputable companies in the industry. MITRE, it sounds like, is one of them, right, Johnny? And then we have many other companies from Microsoft to some of the other major tech companies and even non-tech companies. So you could do it part-time as well, anywhere, anytime. There's no time restrictions as far as when you can log on. There's no set required hours out of you. You can work no hours this week, or you can work 100 hours this week, and that's up to you. So it's highly flexible overall. Resume builder. It's a great way to develop skills. When you're red teaming, when you're testing for vulnerabilities, it can lead into things such as a security analyst role. Now this can apply to Synack, or this can apply to many other companies that have similar roles in security analyst, where you're triaging a vulnerability queue, or you're looking at bad traffic and trying to analyze, okay, what happened here. Security operations engineer, that's what I do. You do technical scoping and set up pen tests. There's a lot of definitions for security operations engineer, and every company seems to use that term a little bit different. So this is it's a broad coverage, but it does give you the experience you need to get into something like that. And then security program manager. This is going to be more on like the client relations side of security. So you still have to have that security mindset, but this is a great role if you're a people person. If you consider yourself a people person, where you're not expected to actually do sales, but you do keep a customer relationship and build a technical a technical bond, I would say, with those folks to make sure that their pen tests are going well and that they're getting the product they signed up for. It's another great role. SRT testing with us, or testing in general, doing this kind of pen testing, red teaming, is a great cue into a lot of these roles. And there's many others in the industry, but this gives you such a broad idea of what kind of vulnerabilities are out there and what you should be looking for, that if you have any success on the red team, you're well queued up and well experienced for a lot of other roles in this industry. AppSec, DevSecOps, there's many, and we've heard all the little acronyms or ditties for all these roles, but it really is a great way to get a solid foundation built and prove that you're capable of doing the job. Finally, I wanted to talk about the support for service members and family. And I say family because, a lot of companies do this, but Synack specifically is really good at helping not just a service member, but also a service member's spouse, or maybe an older kid, to get into a veteran program specifically ran by Synack, where you get some additional support, I would say, to become an SRT. We have a great kind of sped up track that you can come in and get onto the SRT and start testing if that's what you're looking to do. We have an internal vet support team as well, and so we all kind of support each other and see what we can do to benefit veterans both inside and outside of the company. This was one of them here. Being able to sponsor this is an awesome opportunity for us, and VetSecCon is truthfully an awesome opportunity for veterans and for active duty alike. This is such a cool tool to be able to use, to be able to come and talk about resumes, come and talk about potential jobs, and just kind of build out relationships that truthfully can help you get the job. I've seen it a number of times where you meet somebody at a conference, you create a relationship, and not too long after that, you're hired, or you've built a network of advice and support, and that's exactly what this is for. And I'm very thankful to be able to participate in this.
Hey everybody, so again, Johnny Villarreal, call me whatever you want. I'm a former SIGINT analyst in the California Army National Guard. So California, I was with the 40th ID, for any of you who know them, and the 250th MI Battalion. Did 6 years with them, and by the end of it, I realized I wanted to go cyber. But I had joined at the time when the Army was still trying to figure out what cyber was, so there was no such thing as a 17 Charlie. So about halfway through, 2 to 3 years into service, I had already discovered I wanted to hack, and I didn't have a degree personally, so I was self-taught. A lot of Google foo, hack the box, stuff like that. And over time, did a lot of training, got my OCP, a bunch of other fancy credentials and stuff. But my track was pretty much self-taught for the most part. So now, fast forward about 7 years later, I'm currently a cybersecurity engineer at MITRE. We're known as the makers of the attack framework. And, if you're in cybersecurity, you've probably heard of CVEs, basically like serial numbers that identify vulnerabilities and such. And I hack for the Synack Red Team. So sometimes you'll hear us referred to as SRT, so Synack Red Team members, or ethical hackers, or some people call us pen testers. But for the most part, we're known as researchers. And so we are the arm of Synack that does all the different types of assessments on various systems for various clients. So I'm a member of the Circle of Trust and within the Acropolis. As far as specialty goes, I really do like web targets actually the most. I started with host-based targets, and what I mean by that is, networks and basically anything that's on the network, I kind of want to try to hack it. And some of you may know me for being on Portswigger's Hall of Fame. As of this week, currently ranked 3rd international. My hobbies do include beer tasting and chicken raising. You guys could probably hear crowing in the background. That's my chickens. It doesn't matter whether I'm doing a presentation online, giving a class, or like hosting a meeting somewhere. There's always like crowing in the background. So sorry, just my chickens, man. Anywho, that's me. I do want to caveat one thing before we move on. And this is to Trevor's prior point. I think one of the biggest things you can get out of being an SRT member is definitely experience and resume building. And of course, there's a satisfaction of like hacking and like making things more secure. But for a lot of us, and as a veteran, I understand this very specifically. When you're trying to get into cybersecurity or trying to get into any kind of red teaming or penetration testing role, you like need experience to get experience. Synack is being a part of Synack Red Team is one of the most unique ways where you can get a sort of special opportunity as a veteran to get the kind of experience you'd want or need to move into a position to be like a penetration tester or a red teamer for like a different company or something. So just keep that in mind as we move along. So this piece, whether you're a penetration tester or not, I think a lot of this applies, especially the first bullet, right? So if you want to be successful in anything, right, like you should always be striving to increase your understanding of various concepts. For red teamers, I always recommend read an exploit or an article a day. Articles are cool. I mean, you kind of get the gist. Like if you're completely new to this, start with articles that give some kind of high-level explanation about some kind of breach or some kind of attack. And if you're more intermediate or getting into, you know, any kind of level of hacking, where you have any kind of experience, and maybe you're just not like super elite yet or whatever they want to call it, take some time to read an analysis or write-up of an exploit. But read something every day. Do something every day to slowly build your skill set over time, because it doesn't come overnight. I mean, you can you can hack 3 or 4 boxes on Hack the Box or Try Hack Me or whatever in like a week and put it down for, you know, 4 or 5, 6 months. You know, in that 4 or 5, 6 months, as you know, training consistently over a long period of time yields incredible results. So that's why I say daily, even if you have other responsibilities, right? Whether it's multiple jobs or you've got a family or you've got all kinds of personal issues, you know, cut out even 20 minutes of your day if you can afford it, which you probably can, to just do something to help increase your knowledge in some capacity at least once a day. Just do it for yourself. There's a lot of great intelligence out there all over the interwebs. I highly recommend Twitter. I know it sounds weird. Like when somebody told me, hey, you should be on Twitter, and I was like, Twitter? Like, why would I want to be on Twitter, right? I was a SIGINT and OSINT guy. So I was like, why do I, of all people, want to be on Twitter? And mind you, I was at a security conference, and the guy just looked at me like I was broken and stupid. And he was like, that's where all the good stuff is. So don't necessarily need to put your identity out there, right? You can have a handle. I don't necessarily use a handle because I'm already known and I like to share knowledge with people. I want you to always know you can come to me. But if you have OSINT concerns or OPSEC concerns, you know, it still really benefits you to have some sort of way to grasp that knowledge that's out there. And the types of things you can find out there are very interesting. You can find different write-ups that you may not find right away on Google. You may find thought leaders in certain like fields within cybersecurity that interest you. You may find great tutorials that just happen to scratch the itch of something you just couldn't grasp the concept of a long time ago and forgot about. And you're like, hey, you know what? I've been doing this for a couple months. Let me go back and look at that, and boom, you get it, because you get better over time. For existing practitioners and, you know, InfoSec individuals looking to get into red teaming, or existing bug bounty hunters and penetration testers, nobody wants to code right away, and that's fine. You can get away with it for the first couple of years, but eventually, if you really want to step up your game and level up, I would say practice code auditing. And there's tons of open source code you can do this with. One of my favorite ways to do this, especially if you're not super good at it, because again, I'm self-taught. Like, I absolutely despised coding because the first coding class I ever took in college was Java. Enough said. That being said, you can go on like ExploitDB or PacketStorm. Those are just one of the many publicly available sources who will basically give you an exploit proof of concept. So for example, if there is a SQL injection on some kind of WordPress plugin, it will give you the, you know, obviously the name, hey, this is a SQL injection. It'll give you the version number and the date. And you can take that, and oftentimes you'll have, forgive me, a link to the source code. And now you have the weaponized cyber payload there. Or you have the exploit, not the payload. And you have a link to the source code, right? And now you can do some sort of, I'm not going to call it reverse engineering, but sort of, to kind of do a root cause analysis to see what caused this vulnerability, what caused this SQL injection, and that gives you a better understanding of how to look for it in the future. And of course, everybody knows this. We all know and love this one. Take an E and drink water, right? You don't want to burn out. Some of us want to go at this stuff 24/7, all day, every day. There are part-time researchers, there are full-time researchers. And as veterans, we know this is a common issue where you have one job, but you have multiple roles, and you really, 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 really love your mission, and you want to make your superiors happy. Do that for a number of years, and then eventually, you feel the wear and tear, and you don't realize how much it affects you and how it affects your personal health, mental health, that of your family, that of your kids, the people you work with, right? So sometimes you need to take a step back, regardless of what role you're in, and assess where you're at in that spectrum. So I'll leave it with that.
All right, thanks, Johnny. All right. So for myself, I was not in the military, and I think that's one of the things that's really interesting about a company like Synack is that in a company there, we were able to kind of all come together. I probably would not have met Trevor or Johnny in any way if I had not come to Synack. But I think what's really interesting is my route to Synack is vastly different than either of them. I started in the '90s. I was in high school, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be a college computer science guy." I was going in high school. I was already programming in 6 or 7 different languages. Java wasn't even out yet, Johnny. So at the time, so I just put it that way. And I was like, my goal was I'm going to write the next algorithm that's going to save the world. That was my mission statement coming out of high school. But at the same time, I had taken up a lot of sysop roles and webmaster roles for our local ISP that we helped start in my small town. And so we went to college. I found another ISP. We were working with them, and ended up getting to a point where we were, doing all the network setups, the network routing, citing, everything for subnets, ISD, and modems, you name it. We were setting everything up, and all the things I was doing in my job that I was getting paid like $10 an hour or something like that for was the things that they were trying to teach me in school. And so I said, hey, forget this. I'm going to become a consultant. And so I dropped out of college and I went and did .com consulting and app development and all that fun stuff in the late '90s. And then the early 2000s hit and everything kind of went belly up. And I was realizing it's like, hey, you know what? I really enjoy technology. I maybe don't necessarily enjoy computer science, but I enjoyed the use of technology for business purposes. So I went back to college and got a degree in business. From there, I kind of went into the traditional IT roles. I was a programmer, analyst, solutions architect, systems architect. Working my way up to the IT side. I knew all the stuff. I just had to kind of reprove it, if you will, in that IT space. Around that time, around the like 2010s, actually, kind of I took a pivot to where I love public speaking. I love being on the outside talking about technology and getting people excited. So I took a role in community management, which was kind of stepping away a little bit from my technology roots. But I got into developer evangelism, which is where I'm out on the front talking and getting people excited about technology and working with and partners to basically kind of build, integrations and whatnot. Uh, After that was over, I kind of got this opportunity. It's like, okay, well, I was in marketing. I was in this outbound external role where I'm talking about, technology and stuff like that. What would be the best thing to tie this all together? Well, in the '90s, I really wouldn't know that what I was doing was called hacking. I was just really just breaking a lot of stuff and having fun doing it. And when I got the opportunity to say, hey, you can come and be in charge of this red team, be this loudmouth external person that can attract really good talent, talk about technology, and hang out with hackers all day, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like the perfect bow on a crazy career of endless stuff. So for me, that's kind of how I ended up here. And again, I think it's a really interesting story to tell because the one thing I've learned from Trevor and Johnny and a lot of the other veterans that we work with is that everyone's got their own story. They all came from different backgrounds. When they hit their military branch, they found a brotherhood or a commonality, and they kind of created there. But their origins were vastly different. And the fact that people can come together like this in security, and the fact that there's so many opportunities available still is something I think is very really interesting. I myself am very open, just like Johnny and Trevor, for things that anyone has questions. I'm happy to talk through. But my specialties lie in programming, integrations, application architecture, APIs, and then general operational efficiency. I pretty much live and die by automation, and that is how I do my job every day. But that is kind of who I am and where I am. I think one of the odd things is I did end up, of all the things I did do, I ended up writing a book this last year, which I thought was really fun. But again, it's kind of like a nerdy tribute for people. So, but the idea to keep in mind is that just because you're in cybersecurity doesn't mean that that's all you have to do. Johnny likes to do hacking. He likes to raise chickens. He likes to drink beer. Trevor, hey, Trevor. To be honest, I'm trying to remember I haven't seen Trevor face to face in a while because of the offices being closed. Um, but again, like we all have our passions outside of the office, and it's something to realize that just because you come to this industry doesn't mean you have to give up all those other things. So it's always good to have those outlets to go back to. In terms of the why, the crowdsourced red teams, I think a couple of points I wanted to throw out there. One was I call it the great cybersecurity equalizer, and it's that no matter how big or small you might be, a company doesn't get to choose who hacks them. And I think it's really, really important because uh, when we look at the world today versus the world it was like in the 90s and 2000s, right? The world was less connected back then. So again, you were a little bit more insulated from interconnected problems. Oh yeah, coffee. That's right. That's right. You're a big coffee guy, Trevor. Forgot about that. But the idea for the great what makes the equalizer very interesting is now we're obviously completely connected, and so any one of these small companies can be the linchpin that creates the data leak that creates the next toppling down of the next system. So it's really interesting to realize that no matter if you're the small SMB or the large enterprise, you're all kind of playing the same game. And so when you look at the dilemma, is like, look, if I want to, the best way, the traditional way of solving this problem is I'm going to get in-house counsel, right? I'm going to get all my hackers and I'm going to hire the ethical hackers. I'm going to bring them all in. All right. And that's because the benefit to that is I'm going to get a lot of control. I'm going to know who these people are. I'm going to ultimately uh, be able to control them. I'll have them under employment contracts, and ultimately I'll have this sense of safety. All right. Well, the reality is that the cybersecurity market out there is insanely hot right now, and that the ability for every company to have their own in-house team and have it be fully depth and uh, staffed, if you will, to cover their full security posture is almost impossible. And so again, the more money you have, great, the more people you can hire. But again, as because of the industry right now, skilled people are very, very expensive. So for me, that's one of the biggest downfalls of having a fully in-house solution. But also one of the things that comes to mind is you got the concept of convergence, which is that if you bring everyone under the same room and the same standards and the same ideas, they're going to start testing for those same things over and over and over again, and it's a false sense of security. When are you ever going to get the heterogeneous view of how how hacking actually works, which is someone coming at you from a place that you didn't think of? And that's one of the beauties of crowdsourced security, right? Is that it's inherently heterogeneous. It's also less expensive compared to having all in-house control, and which all in-house people. But the trade-off is the control, right? You have to find a way to create trust with these people that you won't know. But the same point is that when it comes to crowdsource elements, you have the benefit of being able to have age, gender, ethnic, region, neuro, and talent. Like those are different levels of diversity. How someone looks at your network or how someone looks at your application can be completely different in how they choose to exploit it based on any one of these elements or more. So again, the best way to defend yourself is to find ways to introduce heterogeneity into your security posture to make sure that you're well protected. And that's where that hybrid solution works out. And that's where the opportunities at Synack start to take place. In terms of the military, again, I wanted to touch on this a little bit. Trevor mentioned it, but I can't say enough how much I agree with what he said and um, and how veterans can realize this benefit. One thing to keep in mind is that the Synack Red Team is one of the largest um, groups of ethical hackers it's highly curated. So in order, you cannot just kind of click a form and sign up and be there. You actually have to prove yourself and show that you have skill to get onto the team. But what's really interesting about that is that by coming onto the team, not only are you exposed to all the different infrastructures and software infrastructures and targets that all of our customers provide, but you're also introduced to all the people that are in our community. We foster collaboration, we foster communication, and by getting exposure to that type of of exploits or exposure to that kind of mindset, you can start diversifying yourself and increasing your own skill palette. Um, so again, like it's that different background skill and overall just availabilities, making sure that you can team up and work with someone from across the globe if you want, and you can say, hey, we're gonna we're going to work on this target and we're going to see what we can find. And that's, you can find ways to create those kind of team camaraderie elements to it. We do have a very strong, thriving veterans community, and it's for veterans by veterans. It was set up. Trevor's our lead contact at Synack, who's kind of like our making sure that Synack is doing right by that community. I, for myself, am responsible mainly for funding that community and making sure that it's fun. So, so I get the best parts of it. One of the things that we do for all aspects of the community is we like to build camaraderie, find people that can benefit you, complement you, can ultimately build you up. Mentorship. Look for ways for you to actually to have someone help you with something. Like if you're learning a certain technique, or if you're learning some sort of some sort of technology that you're not quite familiar with, reaching out to this community and finding out, hey, who here has either some good resources or experience, and let's talk through it, right? Or who has been in this career position before? I'm trying to get a job and move over to this other, make a lateral move into security, or I'm trying to go down and get promoted in security. Who else had issues with that? Let me know. I mean, that's what this community is there for, veterans or otherwise. But I would say the veterans is by far our largest sub community in the Synack Red Team, but it's by far also the most tight. The people that are, they're really well connected, a lot of people there who are just looking to do good and ultimately help each other. A lot of our veterans that are in the community have said multiple times that they, see this as a way of serving their country more, right, and securing the nation's assets. What's really nice with Synack is that we have a lot of federal work. We do a lot of work with a lot of high impact systems, and those high impact systems need eyes, and they need people to watch them, and they need people to test them and make sure that everything is going well. And this is a great way, like we've said before, to keep your skills sharp, right? If you're working in a single job in a single company, looking at a single infrastructure, a single stack, you're going to get burned out or bored from that. But the idea is that you would be able to work on other systems and targets on the Synack Red Team, and the things that you learn, you can bring back to your company and help protect your company and make sure that you're kind of doing a 2-for, helping secure our nation's assets, but also helping secure your own, and make sure that your company is taken care of. And also the spouses are welcome. Just because you're a veteran doesn't, and you can help your spouse get into this potentially. We actually have, I know 2 veterans right now that are actually working on helping train their spouses to make sure to see if they can get into this. And I think the biggest piece about that I love about it, and Trevor talked about this, is that you can work from anywhere. Synack's platform does allow the concept of basically virtualizing, connecting into a virtual environment, and being able to do all your testing from there. So if you wanted to, we have hackers that travel the world where they literally will put their house on Airbnb. They'll go travel somewhere for 3 months, and then they'll go and do their thing, go sightseeing, go explore, and then for a month they'll hack and they'll get the money to go and travel for another 3 months, and they'll go to another place. And conceptually, if you take that analogy and apply it to how sometimes people are stationed and moved and whatnot, that flexibility is something that's really, really powerful, especially when you have a family in tow or whatnot. So that's a really, really important piece. And then the piece that talk about do great work, build your resume, and get opportunities. At the end of the day, Johnny touched on it earlier, right? What we do is ultimately find people who are skilled, hopefully make them better, and give them opportunities to make more money and provide options for themselves. So from my perspective, the military, the veterans, and then people, either current cyber operators or people that are leaving the military, whatever, are in a good position to be able to use the Red Team as their, if you will, Uber for figuring out like how to transition, how to make that leap, how to move from one job to another, or change careers. It's a great way to use that skill as a stepping stone, and the Red Team is happy to be here, to help you do that. So getting started, there's a couple of things I just want to mention. We've painted a really rosy picture, and everything's like, oh yeah, whatever. The one thing it doesn't preclude anyone from is that it still is work. It still requires effort. It still requires discipline. So some things for getting started to make sure to check off in the back of your head. One is determine your eligibility. For example, what I have come to learn is that some military branches, some divisions have specific rules around participating in bug bounty or crowdsourced security. Most of those rules or issues are going away, but the conversations may need to be had. So again, definitely check with I hope I'm not using the wrong word, but your commanding officer or whoever is above you however you say that, and just make sure that this is something that you would be able to do. The other thing I recommend people to do is holistically look at your day and look at your week and say, how much time availability do you have? We have researchers that do really, really well on just 8 hours a week. Like they come in for a day or 2 days, they find a couple of loans, submit them, or they do a little bit of work, they get paid, and that's all they get. We always talk about finding, like, the SRT for any researcher could be something as, hey, I'm going to pay for pay for like a car payment every month. I'm going to pay for my house payment. I'm going to pay for a student loan, or I may be supplementing or complementing my income for my job. Like, you could put the SRT in a box that makes sense for you, and the question becomes, how much time are you going to need to put forward to get to that box? We have 8 hours a week. We have part timers who we call about 10 to 20 hours a week, and then we have full timers who we consider 40 plus hours a week. Again, there's opportunities to be had. There's plenty of federal and U.S. targets available for all of our U.S. researchers. So if you have the time to commit and you have the skill and to make it on, it's definitely something to consider. In terms of getting ready, study, practice, and know that you're ready is obviously a very general thing. A lot of people look at, when you read our marketing literature, you look at the type of people that we have on the Red Team. You will compete against some of the best hackers in the world. There are some amazing hackers on this platform. But to keep in mind is that you don't have to be the most amazing hacker in the world to be successful or to find success. But if you want to know that if you're ready or not, Portsmouth Academy, I can't stress enough, is a great service, if you will. It's a free academy that teaches you a lot about web AppSec, teaches you the ins and outs of Burp. Again, it's a nice marrying of a marketing platform, to make sure that people want to buy their product. But other things like Over the Wire are really good, right? It's basically a walkthrough training, throw you into the deep end type mechanism that's kind of fun to try to find like the different flags and teach you different tactics and commands. We also have one that's called the Hack the Box Synack Red Team track. Now, we're actually about to launch a blog post on Monday. I'll have a little bit more information about this, but the way to look at this is, if let's say that you've been doing a lot of work and you're like, well, I would like to apply, but I don't feel ready. How do you know if you're ready? Well, Synack Red Team track on Hack the Box is the way that I would recommend for everyone to do that. I tell people that if you can go to the Synack Red Team track on Hack the Box and complete all the challenges in earnest, meaning don't look up, don't cheat, don't go. We know that some of the answers are out there, like that. But if you can in earnest look at all the challenges and know that you can do them, you should feel confident to apply, because that means you should do well on our tech assessment. After the tech assessment, it's pretty much just background checks and some other stuff. And if you've been in the military, it's usually a pretty painless process. In terms of that, understanding the components of success, I always tell people, first and foremost is the technical assessment. That tells us about talent. That's the only thing that we can screen up ahead of time from you, to whether or not do you have hands-on keyboard experience? Can you actually do what your resume says you do, or what you think you can do? That's the first and foremost thing. Second piece would be writing vuln reports, and this is something that most people tend to learn when they're on the platform. This is one with what Johnny was saying around, like, make sure what you're reading reports, or going and reading CVEs, go understand the type of wording and the type of phrasing and the impact statements, and read those things and kind of start internalizing and looking for patterns. Writing quality reports is really important, because that's what our customers demand from Synack, because that has been our reputation. Our VulnOps team, that what Trevor has been on, works really well with new researchers as they come on board. If they're submitting garbage or not good enough stuff, they provide the opportunity to actually say, hey, maybe you should improve this a little bit. Here's some hints. Here's some opportunities for improvement, and try to help them along. And once you figure out how to do quality reporting and apply your talents, then you can take your TTP and optimize and automate it. My favorite story that I do is that some of our top hackers, one target in particular, Trevor, I even think you were there that day. We had one of our target was launched, and within 15 minutes of the target being launched, one of our researchers had submitted 10 high-value SQLi vulns and had made $50,000 in less than 15 minutes. It was ridiculous. But again, sometimes that's who you're competing against. But that's a very exceptional scenario. But it is that's how good you could be, and how much interest there could be for you if you're able to automate and compete at that level. But the more important thing is, once you get on platform, is don't be the silo. Don't be the person that says, oh, I can do this on my own. There's a community out there, veteran or not, inside the Synack Red Team, find people that have similar skills or have skills that you want, and find ways to mentor with them. We have a lot of cool features that are coming out in the next couple of months that are going to throw gas on that fire of really compelling people to go out and find mentorship and pair up and find ways to work together. So definitely something that I think makes the Synack Red Team stand apart. So with that, I think we've covered most of the topics on the Synack Red Team. We've got a Synack, a Vuln Ops and a Security Ops engineer perspective of what is it like to work in the security role here at Synack. We've got a SRT here in Johnny that can talk about what it's like to be an SRT and the type of expectations. And then you've got me on the other hand, who I can pretty much tell you what it's like to go through the Synack Red Team process. And again, anything with programming and stuff like that, I'm happy to talk about. But for right now, I'd say let's open it up to questions if anyone has any, and we can go there.
Hey Ryan, real quick if you don't mind, I did post 2 polls, and I got a couple of responses on my first one. So the first one was, have you ever heard of crowdsourced penetration testing? I got 3 no's and 2 yeses. So I just want to see if I can make this really clear. This was probably before Ryan's speech that most of us or most of these results came in. So crowdsourced pen testing is simply having independent contractors. Oh, okay. See, now I have more yeses. So is having independent contractors where we host the pen test for you. A standard pen testing company usually has to work out contracts with a specific client. All kinds of legal protections have to be put in place. And there was a incident not too long in the past where 2 guys had authorization from a city essentially to conduct a pen test, but not a county, broke into a shared building to conduct this physical pen test and then got arrested because the county hadn't given permission. So how is crowdsourced pen testing different? Well, we set up the test for you. We have all the agreements in place with our customers, with the clients that we work with. So all your responsibility is to take whatever time you have, whatever time you feel like you want to get on and do some research. You get on and you pick a client and you connect via our proprietary VPN connection, which we call LaunchPoint, and you start testing. You make sure you stay in scope and you get to work your own hours and do research on a mass scale with just tons of clients and websites and hosts and mobile applications out there. We don't expect you to be an expert in mobile. We don't expect you to be an expert in all of these areas. Get on and you can slowly start going through them and learn and build off of the resources that are out there to slowly get better. We have a leveling system within Synack, level 1 through level 5. When you first join, you're level 1. Many people work their way up to level 2, level 3, and quite a few more are even level 5s. And so as you get in, you'll build skills, you'll find great resources, and you'll find bigger vulns. And so it's a really cool method of pen testing that's not a full-time job. That's not high pressure, high stress. It's a way for you to work at your own pace and learn while having the added benefit of potentially making a little extra money if you get some valid fines. The other one that I saw or that I posted was, are you active duty, Guard and Reserves, or free? Johnny, you're free, right? You're totally out.
Oh yeah. Imagine what would happen if I was in with this fluffy thing.
Yeah, I thought so, but I mean, there's religious exemptions and stuff these days. I don't know. So I see we've got 5 Guard and Reserve members and 4 votes for totally free and none for active duty, which I'm a little surprised by. But that's cool. Guard and Reserves, this is a huge way for y'all to get more involved in another aspect of testing. So if many of you are coming from cyber protection teams, cyber operations squadrons, whatever it may be, I'm with the 272nd Cyber Operations Squadron out of Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan, and that's Air Guard. This is a great way to get in and supplement income for a job and build more knowledge as to networking and other aspects. Host, you can practice host with us, and then show up and just be awesome at drill weekend, or at least bring in some extra income. If you're totally free, this can be a full-time option for you. This can be a part-time option for you. So that's what's great, is this is flexible work, and just a great way to build those skills. So I'll let questions come in if anybody needs anything.
And one thing I'll say while we're waiting for questions is we do have, we run annual open invitational CTFs every year. So these are basically opportunities where we try to open the doors and make it so that anyone who's interested to join the Red Team has a chance to do so. We actually have one coming up on November 5th, which is next week. And it's actually called the Red Team 5, Synack Red Team 5 Open Invitational CTF. It runs from November 5th to November 7th on Hack the Box. The top 25 people are going to, we have prizes that are going to get for things like burp licenses, Hack the Box 1-year passes, challenge coins, which are going to look pretty awesome. But then specifically for military and veterans we have a special category for them. We're giving away masterclass passes, more burp licenses, more Hack the Box licenses. But also we have, for the top prizes, we have custom Oakleys up to a price of $500. A GoRuck GR1, I think is what it's called, which is going to be just I saw it and I thought it was an epic backpack. And then lastly, we have a TRX tactical trainer system that's going to be given away to the third place or third top military person. This competition or CTF is designed for 5I. So that's going to be focused on where we're focused. A lot of our government work and work that we like to use 5I resources. So we're trying to focus on bringing in those people. But at the same point, if anyone's in a country that is not a 5I, you're welcome to participate and welcome to go for the normal prizes. So definitely something to give it a go. If you've done a CTF before and you want to kind of get a fast pass to getting onto the Red Team, sign on to the CTF, do well. And if you perform well during the CTF, then you'll, like I said, we'll potentially get an invite from us to come on board. And I can look up real quick and get a link for that and share that to the window. But it's also something that's very easy. It's a fun way to actually get on board, which is really fun. So there's the link. All right. Any questions? Otherwise, I think we'll go ahead and call it and let everyone get a break before the next session.
Actually, I think we did have some questions earlier. I want to go back up to, it's a couple good ones. Yeah, so we had a question from Michael Yetna earlier asking, does that include early career and entry level? Yes, it can. I mean, but you still have to pass the skills assessment, which we spoke to earlier. So, I mean, you can have like entry level experience and be skilled enough to actually assess a system. So if you're a veteran, this is a great on-ramp for you. You could also be a PhD and miserably fail it, right? So we want people who can hack. That's kind of the point. So another question from Cody Palmer, or no, it was a comment, and that was about I have Humint, which isn't super duper helpful, but helps with OSINT. Absolutely correct. And if you have any kind of like skills in terms of like researching in general, or any kind of skills in analysis, yeah, I mean, that would definitely help you in OSINT. And then the last thing about another question from Michael Yetna about imposter syndrome. If you had experienced it, absolutely. Like imposter syndrome is a thing everywhere, and especially in InfoSec, and especially in penetration testing, red teaming, hacking in general. I mean, you're always going to feel like if you're not in, or even if you're in and trying to move up somewhere, I mean, it really doesn't matter who you are, what level of experience you're at. You're always going to feel some sort of imposter syndrome, meaning you feel as if you know some stuff, or maybe you just don't know anything at all. but you feel to some extent or to a large degree that there's just no way you're going to get this. Like, there's just no way you're going to get in. And the only way to defeat that is to train really hard and try, because that's the only thing that's going to tell you whether or not you're capable of doing so right here, right now. And even if you fail the first time, there have been many folks who have come back a second and third time and got in however many tries it required them to do so. So yeah, I mean, combat imposter syndrome. And if you have imposter syndrome, that's one of the cool things about the community. You've got like you've got hundreds, thousands of other veterans who are in this community who you could just ask them, hey, can we hop on Hack the Box? Can we do a box together? Or can you read my report? Or like, there's many different ways you can kind of get them to validate the experience that you may think you lack. And there's often a good chance, if you're persistent enough and been doing this or training for it long enough, that you probably already have it. And it's just all in here, Me personally, I definitely had it. I had wanted to be on the Synack Red Team for like 2 years before I even got on. And part of that kind of induced the thought in my own head that I wanted to get my OSCP, because I felt like that was a baseline. If I could at least do that, maybe I stand a chance of getting into SRT. And so I pretty much trained relentlessly for about a year, failed my OSCP the first time. And I'm talking like Vuln Hubs and Hack the Box and Try Hack Me and all kinds of stuff, like just self-taught. And I still failed my OSCP. It was like July of 2018, my first time. I was shy by like 10 points. And that was like 20 hours of testing. And I was just like, man, like I am pathetic. But I got to get up and do this again because I was too close. Like that's insane, going up against it the first time. Like, there's no way this is going to happen. And it was like, holy cow, 10 points? That's not a lot. So I rescheduled it for September. But then the guard was like, wait, did you schedule something and pay for it? You need to go over here and fight wildfires for a month. So that 1 month that I had to study in between my my failure, my exam, and the guard's like, wildfires. So I brought my laptop with me. It was the Redding. It was the Cal Fire, Redding, California, 271,000 acres. So I got to go fight that actively for 30 days. And I took a laptop with me because I'm like, well, these fools don't go anywhere without generators. I won't have Wi-Fi, but I can download vulnerable VMs and keep training. So every night I would sacrifice an hour of sleep to keep training. And, there was still that sense in my head that not only did I fail my first time, but I've also been on a stinking mountain putting out a fire with an axe because, that's how it goes. I don't know how good this training's been. Am I really going to do this? So I remember getting back to the unit, unloading all my gear, and I hadn't even thought about it. I mean, I think I've gone through all of my phone hubs in like the first 20 days. I had an external hard drive that I filled up, and I obviously didn't count on doing one a day. So I ran out like 10 days short. And so when I got off the bus and I got all my gear and went home, I checked my phone. I had an email saying, hey, we're here to remind you your exam's like in a few days. I think it was like 3 or 4 days or something like that. And I was just like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Been hiking for a while, not training and studying like everybody else. And so exam time came and it was like, okay, you know what? It's whatever. It is what it is. Just take this stupid thing. Probably going to fail it. And, we'll hopefully schedule maybe a third exam take 60 days out in case they do some other craziness to me in between. And so when I approached the exam, I started off with a bang energy drink because that's what I did last time. And I was starting to get into it. And I was writing some scans. And I was just like, why am I even like doing this right now? Like, this is stupid. I literally have not been training with like adequate resources for last month. So I grabbed a beer and I was like, F it, right? Like, all hope is lost. And so like I had my first beer. I say first because I think I had like 2. And after my first beer, honestly, I started having fun with it. I was like, let's just play with the exam environment. Let's just kind of feel it out. Because at this point, like, yeah, I may not pass, but I'll at least have a better understanding of like what these systems are. kind of like, let me just explore them. Like, screw it. This is not even a test. Let's just enumerate the crap out of everything. And I think within 4.5 hours, I actually had enough flags to pass. And I was like, wait a minute. That's the last flag I needed. And I wasn't really actually trying that hard for it, right? It was a shift in mentality. It went from imposter syndrome and all this, oh my gosh, I'm not going to pass it, that's the end of the world, to, hey, let's just have some fun, because like, even if this is a worst case scenario and I don't pass, I'll do it again, but next time I'll be ready. And I passed. So when I say, you're going to have imposter syndrome, sure. I don't recommend drinking beer during an exam, like, ever, unless it's just how you operate. But like, seriously, yes, you're going to have imposter syndrome. But if you want this bad enough, or you want anything bad enough, like, at some point you got to face it head on. So that's my answer to that question.
So yeah, I can't beat that story because that's pretty awesome. But I'll wolf a couple of things. The blog post that's coming out on Monday actually talks a lot about this, because this is something we hear from a lot of applicants who look at the brand, look at the reputation, and they're like, they don't know if they're ready. That's one of the reasons why we created that Synack Red Team track, to give you an objective way. It's up to you to determine whether or not you are putting in the work and whether you understand all those skills and concepts. But if you do well on that track, you should feel good enough to apply and to try to get in. And once you get in my opinion, if you can stay hungry and stay passionate, the mentorship, the community, the people, you'll get what you need. You'll figure it out, and you'll find a foothold, and you'll get it going. The thing about this industry, which is really great, and the thing that I try to do with our community, is I want to make sure that we build a community of people who want to help each other, which is something that's really interesting. Is that, yes, there's bug bounty and all this stuff. Like, you will be in there for yourself, but I think at the end of the day, coming to the community and wanting to kind of give what you can and take what you will, is a really, really important concept. And so the type of people you're going to meet in the Synack Red Team are going to be very open and willing to work with you. And again, the more experience you get, the more exposure you get, the more confidence you'll get. And that's the best way that you can fight imposter syndrome, is have confidence in what you know. So rely on that, and then put yourself out there for the things that you don't, or that, put some effort in, but stand, ground yourself to that confidence, and then kind of keep growing it over time.
Okay, so we got a question from Scott. Coming from an intel defense background, how difficult is it to transition from offense? So I actually was exactly that case. I was a SIGINTer who got to mop floors and sometimes like support a COCOM on the weekend, for drill. But it was like, and then of course they're like, hey, you're going to do this mission for a month and these missions for a month, and then go to Camp Roberts and like do nothing for 2 weeks. But I had an intel background, and whether you're intel or defense trying to transition to offense, it's as, at least coming to Synack Red Team, it is as hard as preparing yourself to pass the skills assessment, and of course not doing anything illegal. That being said, tons of free resources out there, right? Hack the Box, try Hack Me, just like we had in the slides. Like, Google's your best friend. The Hack the Box track, it's moderately difficult. If you can complete all of it, hey, awesome. If you're at the point where you're starting from like scratch, or starting where it's like, hey, I know what mmap is, but I don't know how to like manually exploit all this stuff. Like, you want to get to the point where you can pass a track and become a member of the Synack Red Team. In that case, there's tons of free resources. So like, if you're not hot in Linux, right, go look at Over the Wire. Their Bandit War games are awesome. If you're new to hacking in general, but you kind of know your way around an operating system, and you're good at Googling. If you're good at Googling, you'll be fine. You're going to get through all this, I promise. Hack the Box has a pretty large platform. They have a lot of stuff you can exploit. I'm not here to sell any of their stuff, but they have a VIP license that gives you access to their old boxes. The way Hack the Box works is they have like an arena of like 20, I think it's like 20 something, or exactly 20 active systems. And you can hack them for like points, and it's like Call of Duty, but it's hacking. But they also have their older systems, which are in a retired arena that's unfortunately only accessible to VIPs. It's not that much money. It's like, I think like 10 or $12 a month. I don't really even know. Like, it's not a lot. to me, I'd be like, if I want to be a hacker and like, you know, advance my career, I can afford $10 a month. So you should look at some of those retired systems, because there's tons of write-ups online that will step-by-step walk you through the entire hacking process, the entire kill chain, everything from enumeration to getting a foothold, post-exploitation, right? So if you're not super good at this stuff, or you know absolutely nothing about it, there's actually step-by-step guides that will hold your hand through the process. And after you do it enough times, you start to notice the patterns, you start to understand the kill chain better, you start to learn the tools. There's a YouTube channel. This guy's name is InfoSec, IPPSEC. Super awesome, great at explaining things, much better than I am. And he actually does those Hack the Box walkthroughs on video. So he not only talks through it, does it on, you know, does a screen share, and also explains all the different concepts and what his thought process is. So with all that, there's really no way you can't learn this stuff if you really want to. And if all it costed was like a VIP subscription for like 10, 12 bucks a month, whatever, like that's super cheap compared to trying to like go get a master's somewhere and then like they might get you CEH and teach you some things about SQL injection, and then you still can't pass the skills assessment. Like hands-on is like the best way you're going to learn this stuff. So take advantage of what's out there.
All right. Well, I think we're at time. I think there's another session that's already started up. So for those that have stuck around, definitely thanks for hanging in with us. If you have questions, definitely reach out to all of us. Looks like LinkedIn might be the commonality here. But definitely just let us know. Like I said, at the end of the day, there's a very strong veteran community here at the Synack Red Team. And if you've got the skills to make it on, I think it'll be well worth your time. So hope to see you there soon. Hope to see you at the CTF next week. And you guys have a good one.